You know the feeling, right? A tiny disagreement suddenly blows up into this huge fight, and at the end of it, everyone's just mad and absolutely nothing got solved. So what if I told you there's a way to change that? To turn those awful, destructive fights into something productive? Well, today, we're going to break down how you can win an argument the right way, which, spoiler alert, means persuading, not just punishing.
So let's start with a little thought experiment. I want you to think back to the last disagreement you had. And be honest, what was your goal? Were you just trying to prove you were right, to score a point, or were you actually trying to solve the problem? Your answer to that one question, well, it changes everything. It's the absolute core difference between a fight and a real argument.
Okay, so that little distinction you just thought about, that brings us right to our first big idea. You see, the difference between a fight and an argument, it's not about how loud you get or how angry you are. No, it's all about the goal. It's about what you want to achieve before you even open your mouth.
Just look at these two columns. They're like two completely different paths. Over here, you've got the fight, the goal to win, and yeah, maybe even to hurt the other person a little. The whole focus is I win, you lose. And what do you get? Just anger and maybe even a little bit of revenge. But then, look at the other side. You've got an argument. The goal is totally different. It's to persuade, to solve something. The focus is, hey, let's convince each other. And the result? A real solution, and maybe even some understanding. It's a completely different game.
And get this. This isn't just some nice theory. There's real research to back it up. A researcher named John Gottman discovered something fascinating. Happy couples argue just as much, if not more, than unhappy couples. The huge difference is how they do it. See, happy couples, they use arguments as a tool to actually solve problems. But unhappy couples, they use arguments like a weapon to attack each other. So arguing itself isn't the problem at all. It's just a tool. The real question you got to ask yourself is, are you using that tool to build something up or to tear it all down?
Okay, so if we're trying to argue productively, how do we actually do it? Well, funny enough, it turns out the best toolkit for this comes from a really unlikely source. We're talking about an ancient Roman orator who lived over 2,000 years ago. His name was Cicero, and believe it or not, his strategies for persuasion are just as mind-blowingly powerful today as they were back then.
Cicero's big idea, his light bulb moment, was actually super simple, but it's also incredibly profound. It's this: you have to know what your goal is before you start talking. Every single successful argument has a clear target. If you don't have one, what are you doing? You're literally just swinging in the dark, hoping to hit something.
So he broke the whole art of persuasion down into this really simple three-step ladder. It's super easy to remember. Step 1, change the mood. Step 2, change their mind. And step 3, the final step, move them to action. All right, let's dive in and see exactly how each one of these rungs on the ladder works. All right, step 1 is all about the mood. Think of this as the foundation for everything else. I mean, psychologically, this is huge. You can have all the best facts, all the logic in the world, but if the person you're talking to feels defensive or angry, their brain literally shuts down. They're just not open to being persuaded. So your only objective here is to make them receptive, to get them to listen. And you can do that with stuff like telling a story, cracking a joke, or even just setting a really calm, respectful tone. Okay, so once their defenses are down and they're actually listening, now you can move on to goal number 2, changing their mind. This is where your logic and reason get to shine. You bring in your evidence, you show them the benefits. And here's a really powerful technique. Help them weigh the alternatives. Don't just hammer them with why your idea is great. Lay it out like, here's option A and here's option B. Show them why your path is the smarter, more balanced choice.
And then we get to the final step. And let's be real, this is usually the hardest one: getting them to take action. I mean, it's one thing to get someone to agree with you in their head, but it's a whole other challenge to get them to actually do something about it. The secret here is to make the action feel totally achievable. It has to be super clear, super simple, and not scary at all. You need to take them from thinking, okay, I should do this, to feeling, hey, you know what? I can do this.
All right, so we've got the theory down. Cicero's 3 goals: mood, mind, action. That's great. But how do you actually use this stuff in the real world, when a conversation starts getting heated? So let's get practical and look at some super smart strategies you can use. Okay, one of the most powerful, almost secret weapon-level tools you have is something called concession. Now, I know it sounds totally counterintuitive, right? It's basically the art of agreeing with the other person first. You find just one part of their argument that you can genuinely agree with. The second you do that, they'll see their defenses just melt away, and suddenly you look like the most reasonable person in the room.
So what does that actually sound like? Well, instead of just immediately pushing back, you do this little move I call the agree and pivot. It sounds like this. You know what? You're right. This project is really difficult. See? You agree first, then you pivot. But I think if we divide up the work, we can totally get it done. Or how about this one? Yes, the budget is definitely limited. That's your concession right there. So that means we should pick the most important things to focus on. You're validating their concern, and that makes them so much more open to hearing your solution.
Let's put this to the test with a classic real-world scenario. Picture this. You see the flashing lights in your rearview mirror. You're getting pulled over for speeding. The officer walks up and says you were doing 55 in a 50 zone. Now, take a second. What is your real goal here? Is it to prove the officer is wrong? Or is it to maybe avoid getting a very expensive ticket? Because your goal is going to completely change your strategy.
So the fight response would be to get sarcastic, right? Something like, oh, the speed limit is 50? Wow, I was worried I was going too slow. I mean, that's a classic I win, you lose move. And let me tell you, you are gonna lose, big time. But what about the argument response? It uses concession. You are absolutely correct, officer. I do apologize. I guess I just wasn't paying close enough attention. Can you feel how that just completely changes the mood? It goes from confrontational to cooperative, and that gives you a much, much better shot at actually getting what you want.
And this brings us to another really smart tactic. Sometimes you have to let the other person win on the small stuff so that you can win the thing that actually matters. It's like playing the long game. By conceding a minor point, you make them feel heard, you make them feel respected, and that makes them way more likely to give you what you want on the big issue, the thing you really care about.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, right? We talked about the huge difference between a fight and an argument, we walked up Cicero's three-step ladder, and we looked at smart strategies like concession. So now, let's pull it all together into one final check, a simple question you can ask yourself before any big conversation.
The single most important thing you can do is just pause and ask yourself the golden question. What do I really want here? Am I just looking for that quick, satisfying rush of proving I'm right? Or do I actually want a real, long-term solution? Am I after revenge, or do I want respect? Answering that question honestly, just for yourself, is the first, and I mean the most important step to winning any argument the right way.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. This quote here, it just perfectly captures the whole mindset shift we've been talking about. An argument is an incredibly powerful tool. Now, in the wrong hands, yeah, it can definitely be a weapon. But when you learn to use it skillfully, it becomes a tool for building things, for building understanding, for building collaboration, for building actual solutions.
So the next time you feel a conversation start to get tense, the next time a disagreement starts to heat up, just stop for a second. Ask yourself that one question. What is my real goal? Because knowing your destination is the only way you're ever going to choose the right path. And that right there is the difference between just winning a fight and actually solving a problem.